We play and call it work.
Hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Reroll. So as you can see, we've named it finally, which is good. Yep. And we do have some guests with us today, and there's for a very important reason that we are joined by Cullen, who does our editing in the studio, and as many of you will probably recognize, we have Josh here, who comes in and does a number of games with us.
He lives in a shack down by the river.
Some may know him as Castro.
It's a van down by the river.
He's that guy.
He's a
Motivational speaker.
Anyway, there's a very good reason why we have some extra cast members with us today, and that's because we are going to be talking about something very, very exciting. Mm-hmm. So, I noticed that you've...
Age of Sigmar. What happened today was Quirk, sorry. Good job.
Keep going. Let me get this timer started, you guys. As usual, we have a 30-minute timer. So, Steve, you were saying something?
We had the opportunity to go to Black Knight Games in Hamilton to be shown a demo game of Age of Sigmar. Now that we is Quirk, myself, Josh, and Cullen. Leland was unable to come with us this afternoon, but we are going to spend this time...
I had domestic duties.
Yeah. We're going to spend this time to tell Leland what we saw and what we feel about the game.
Now, before we do that, Leland, what is your opinion of the game? From what you've seen from the rumors, from what you've seen from leaks?
All right, so I have to admit, I came into this really, really excited. I liked a lot of what I've seen. I spent the day looking over the War Scrolls, looking over the main rule books, checking out a couple battle reports that have sort of surfaced online at this point as well. I'm not as excited as I was for it. And now there's a couple of reasons why this could be. One, a lot of people seem to try to be pushing the traditional fantasy narrative to it in the sense of lots of models. Mm-hmm. That could be one of the problems right there. And it could be the reason why a lot of the battle reports I was hearing about, a lot of the experience I was hearing about, didn't really flow that well. So that could be one of the big reasons. One of the other things that really bothers me, and I know that you can come to a player agreement on this one, it's some of the nonsense rules that have sprouted up in the War Scrolls. One in particular, like if you look at I think it's like Marius Leitdorf, the Mad Count. He has a special rule where if you pretend to ride a horse and talk to your horse, you're going to reroll hits and reroll wounds in that phase. And there's lots of little ridiculous things like that, and quite frankly, to me, that seems like Games Workshop has given up any pretense of making a game, and this is really just a loosely thrown together set of rules just so they can sell the models, and that kind of upsets me, it kind of saddens me a little bit. Okay. So my excitement level has gone down, but I am still going to give it a go because I don't want to write it off until I play it.
No, I think you have a very valid point about those couple of crazy rules.
Yeah, I think we've all came across them while reading some of the War Scrolls.
We're going to house rule them as if they don't exist.
Which, that should be the case. If you want to do organized play or even just casual play, they should not be there. I was telling Cullen earlier in a discussion, it feels like this is the unglued, unhinged version of Warhammer Fantasy. So for any Magic players, you guys are going to know that reference right there. To me, that was never fun to play against, and it was never fun to play.
Yeah, they're good within their own little right, but when you start to bring them into actual competitive play, it just gets like it's not it's not meant for tournament play.
Something that I had noticed about them is that when you read them, the way they're worded, it's almost as if you can take the little nonsense text out of it, and you can actually remove it from the actual wording there. You don't have to rewrite anything. You just remove the text, and it will say something to the extent of when within 3 inches of a hero, do this,
which is fair enough,
and that's how it would work,
and that's fair enough. I said, I'm willing to accept that makes perfect sense to me. But you are going to encounter those people who basically argue, well, you didn't talk to your imaginary horse.
And when you come across those people, you tell them Fred's in the stable.
Yeah, I don't think that is a little silly. It's not for me, but I mean, whatever. I think we can ignore that part of it.
Yeah, you can see where it has its place.
But how our day started up with, we came into the studio, gathered up some cam equipment, and we're getting ready to do our drive up to Hamilton to do this demo. And that's when we realized that today was the day, this is Saturday for us, that all of the War Scrolls were released. So we spent the morning printing them off, bringing them in the car with us for the ride up, and then the conversation the whole ride in the car up was, well, this guy can do this. Wait, well, this guy can do this, and this model can do this. It was all like, everybody had an amazing thing.
The discussion up and the discussion back were two completely different things.
Completely different things, you're right.
From before playing and after playing, because before playing, and I'm sure a lot of you have realized this reading them, like, it's hard to grasp how good things or like what things will do without any sort of frame of reference of the game.
like you can paper hammer it, and it seems
Oh,
really good.
exactly.
You read something, you go, wow, it hits on a 3 and it wounds on a 3, and it does d6 wounds. That's amazing. But then when you actually roll that one die and you get a 2, it's like, oh, well, that was a lot more lackluster than I thought it was going to be.
So I have a question I want to ask you guys, because obviously I don't have that first-hand experience just yet. So one of the big things we've seen in Age of Sigmar is the standardized rolls. We're seeing 3+, 4+ to hit. We're seeing standardized saves. The only thing I've seen that modifies saves is actually the rending ability.
Yep.
And I don't recall coming across anything better than rending -1.
There's
There's
a minus
there is.
2.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there's some bigger ones in there. Now, at first I was all for this, but I started thinking about it, and some of the accounts that I've read, it almost seems like it's taken out a lot of the variety from the game. Now, did you guys find this in your demo game?
I think the thing for me that kind of changed it for the demo game was some of the stats have become more standardized overall, but each unit has special abilities that kind of give you the uniqueness. I liken it a little bit more to I'm a War Machine player, and how each different unit in War Machine, even though they might have similar stats and roles, have separate abilities that kind of make them somewhat more unique.
And you do notice that a lot, especially when you guys will see it. The game that Steve was playing.
Did we mention the fact we recorded an entire demo game?
No, we didn't.
Okay,
No,
so we
yeah.
did record an entire demo game. There may be some spoilers in this conversation if you care about that kind of thing, but it's more. It wasn't so much a game of strategy. It was more about learning what all the models can do. So we're going to post that probably on the 11th or after the 11th when everything is allowed to be posted. Everything is released from Games Workshop. But we will talk about a lot of that demo game here today. Go ahead and finish your thought.
What I was going to say was you do get that standard thing where it was your basic. I'm going to leave names out of it just to avoid any types of spoilers. But it was your basic troop went and attacked their basic troop, and it was okay. Well, you need 3s to hit, and you rolled your 3s. It was like okay, well that was fairly standard. And then suddenly a hero came into it, and it opened this entire door of special rules for your attacks there, where it was, oh, you're attacking a hero? Well, 6s do this, and 1s get re-rolled because you're attacking that hero model.
I think every unit had stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think, okay, in a general game of Warhammer Fantasy, most things are hitting on 4s. Most things are wounding on 4s. So the whole streamlining that is okay. What that did is it took away the ridiculous monsters where you had to only win them on 6s or 5s, whatever.
Or you couldn't win them.
Or you couldn't win them at all.
Yeah.
But in actually in fantasy, you can always win on a 6.
Yeah.
But what the monsters gained in for losing that bit of, I don't know, what's the word, resilience?
Yep.
They got a bunch of extra wounds, but they all have a bunch of special rules where they could do, I'm trying to think what that monster could do. That monster had a range attack, that Mauler Fiend type guy.
Yep.
He had 8 wounds, and he was giving extra attacks to guys within so many inches of himself.
Yeah. And then the thing was, you started to hurt him, and it was like, okay, well, he started to chop away at it, and then he did something, and she's like, oh, by the way, I healed back up. And you're like,
Yeah.
uh-oh.
And I don't
Like,
th-
I felt it played better than I expected it to.
Yeah.
Once after reading a lot of these war scrolls, we read the war scrolls on the way up, and it came out be
And
better than I thought.
was that one of the ones that, because I've seen several War Scrolls where it has altering stats for how many wounds it has
No, it
left?
was not.
No.
It was
No,
not.
No.
but I don't know if you've seen any of those.
What?
Like those look super cool.
And
Well, like the Gasher example.
there was the one person who was playing, it was a table of Chaos Demons versus Ogre. And the Ogre player did something, and he was just like, oh, here's my table. I've only taken 3 wounds, so I'm actually running on this line here. And it was just wrecking stuff. And then the guy managed to get 1 extra wound on it, so it dropped down to the 4 wound bracket. And suddenly it just got so much weaker
So
and weaker
what
and weaker.
Quirk is saying, some of the really big guys, like Nagash, for example, will have a table. And you know what we're saying right now, you can go online in Games Workshop right now and find these papers, these war scrolls.
Yeah, oddly enough, everything is free.
Everything.
On the Games Workshop website.
But you know what? That to me, that's just telling you that they're phasing out these models. It's only going to be all new models. I think that's the case. You don't think so?
I'm not feeling it. I think they're too established with all the different models. I think, for me, it feels like they're almost pushing more of their agenda of Games Workshop is a company that produces models and sells really great models, and they make a rule set to go along with them.
Like, when you look
think
at
that's a mistake, but
with
yeah,
them
you're
with them
right.
releasing everything, you're not seeing any lore behind this. You're not seeing any
True.
any type of backstory behind it.
Wait
so
a minute.
let me finish my thought here. You don't see any of that type of stuff. So it's them going, you know what? We have the rules for this game. We have the stuff for this game. Let's get this out and see how it works. Let's not take the time to create 14 new codexes. Let's get the War Scrolls out to everybody. And then we can start working on the stories later on and actually make them novellas and things like
We
that.
held today the fluff book, 96 pages of background and history. Now, obviously, we didn't get a chance to read it because we're in black and white. We're trying to film some game here, but the storyline probably has advanced a number of years. Sigmar is the ruler of his realm of whatever, in the heavens. All the characters, all the special characters in these battle scrolls, Tyrion, these guys are all dead. These are all just bringing the guys from the past into the game right now for here and now. I think we're going to get new books that will
Explain
Have
everything.
new things, new characters.
Yeah, exactly.
True new fashion.
So remember back in, I don't know if you played you'll remember the 6th edition Ravening Hordes?
Yep.
This is just Ravening Hordes all over again.
Well,
Those
but
rules were very
big
basic.
The big difference, though, is that Ravening Hordes didn't fundamentally change the way the game ran. Like the
rule set did.
It did and it didn't. There was still enough similarities. Like you still had your standardized stat lines and all that sort of stuff. They weren't phasing out armies upon armies and whatnot. Whereas your earlier comment, it does kind of feel like the pre-existing stuff. I don't think they're going to stop selling it, but I think they're going to run them until the molds break, and then they just won't bother refreshing it. I think is what's going to happen. So this feels like far more of a refresh than Ravening Hordes felt like. I think is that's my takeaway from it anyway.
So I have kind of this feeling that you guys I think are all disagreeing with me that this is going to be it is a new game. We already know that.
Oh yeah.
But they're going to just start producing except for the Skaven. Skaven will obviously continue on their chaos now, but I think they're going to start reproducing new models for everything.
I think everything's getting
Do you
new
think they're going to
models.
be selling much mini Empire models? I don't think so. I think they're gonna. They're that's the.
I think you're gonna have to
now.
pay attention to a lot of those secondhand websites, eBay, Kijiji. Like, I wonder how many people are going to be posting up their armies and just trying to get rid of it and trying to get some value out of it.
I'm gonna dump all my unpainted stuff, all my unpainted Empire for sure.
No,
I just don't see the value in painting.
But no, for someone like me, like for those of you who've seen the battle reports I've been in, I'm relatively new to Warhammer Fantasy, and I still like the 8th edition rules, and I haven't had enough time to play it out where some of the players obviously want, like Steve, like, I know he's just talking about a refresh or just wanting to start new, where I just got into it, so there's still a lot of stuff that I'd really like to try
That's a
out.
fair point.
So I know that even if I do still plan on buying more Skaven models and building up my army, and my thought right now is I don't plan on basing them on circle bases.
And I think there's a lot of people in the community that do want to stick with or what I've been hearing a lot of is this 8.5 idea with slightly tweaked rules. And whatnot.
Yeah.
And I've been hearing a lot of that talk as well. So I think,
And that's why I want to keep all my stuff based on square. Like, I was thinking, like, I don't want to rebase all my things, but now that it doesn't make that big of a difference whether it's
bases are irrelevant now.
Exactly, it doesn't make any difference. So I'm going to keep it all in square. So in the odd chance that I want to play 8th again, or there's someone asks, hey, you want to play 8th edition? I can still do that without having to be like, oh, well, now that everything's on circle bases, there's no going. It's kind of hard to go back from that. Like, how do you?
no.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say one thing that I noticed just on the topic of bases was everything that came out had a much bigger base for the model than
A
I think it
lot
needed.
bigger.
Okay,
Like, I
that's
thought that
exactly what I
looked
wanted to
very
talk about.
goofy.
I think that's a problem. I think you might actually have an advantage right now staying with the square bases. And let me hear why. I didn't want to talk about this with you guys until we got here on the camera. There was at one point in the demo where he started piling up some of his bases on top of the other guy's bases.
Literally,
Everyone
they
in
were
the
like-
room cringed.
They
And
were
it was
like this, one
and
base is on
but it
top
says
of another.
in the rules, the 4-page rules,
It's
that
totally,
you can do
it's
that.
totally
yeah.
valid. Now the thing is, if he went all out on it, he could have went on top of my bases and then piled up on his bases. He could have got a lot more guys into combat, into attack, if he had done that. However, once I paint up my bases and my models, I don't want you putting your models on top of my base.
Yeah,
That's a problem I'm gonna have with this game.
especially if you're one of those people who likes to do the super scenic bases, and especially now with the big bases, that gives you a lot of that room to make those really nice, cool, extravagant bases. And do you want some of those?
I do not want to start going off with a bunch of house rules here and now. However, I'm probably in a house rule. You cannot get on top of my base.
So that actually segues into a conversation I wanted to have regarding bases, because they've said right in the rules, bases are irrelevant. They are simply there for holding up the model. And I don't know if this is just years of ingrained wargaming experience and whatnot, but I don't like that. I feel like this opens up the door for people modeling for advantage. Like obviously there are going to be some ways of stopping that. Like for instance, no part of your model can move further than your move statistic.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
And
there's
not
no free
like there's
pivot
never
swings
been.
and-
There's always been the modeling for advantage with
Yeah.
true line of sight and things like that.
Yep.
So
Here's the
it's
thing,
always
now that,
been
now that the
play.
entire model is considered to be part of it. Even turning it counts as movement. How can you model to an advantage? What can you do that actually gives you the advantage by modeling it?
Why modeling it long and you stay within 1 inch coherency a lot easier.
Yeah.
With your things with the big wings,
take two
right?
spears and, the wing guys were...
The wing guys, those were weird, because then you can hop into combat with someone who's touched like 3 inches away from the little edge of your wing.
Yeah, so that is one of my concerns, and it's going to be one that we need to see in practice.
Yeah.
Because I do understand what you're saying.
And that's what I was going to get to. Yeah, you can do that where you have your guys holding their spears up like this. Suddenly, keeping coherency becomes really difficult when you're trying to navigate terrain.
So
or when you start to remove models.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And that's a big deal
using
right there.
them from the middle. Then
Moving models is a big part of this game. Which ones you're moving when, why? Like
because it's all up to you, and you need to choose where to put them.
I'm worried about making house rules. I think we're going to be measuring and playing from the bases.
You know what? I think
If I can't find a reason why that's not a good enough reason, like, that's not valid, then that's going to be the house rule.
Yeah, because it
Because-
sounds like there's no importance to facing in this.
No,
No, not whatsoever.
So
Not at all.
I'm right there with you. Like that one simple change, like to me, it makes it feel like the combat is less of a quagmire of.
At one
fighting
point,
and
I
whatnot.
was charging one of his characters with a couple of my units, and I needed to move some guys over so that another unit can make it into combat and make their charging as well. He's like, "Hold on, you don't have to. You're within 1 inch of his mace, which was sticking out this far." I'm like, oh yeah, I am guessing almost touching that. So I was in coherence, like I was in contact with him. I was this far from his base, but this far from his mace, and that I didn't.
That helped maintain coherency. So that's why I was saying, how can you really model for an advantage that does... It's a double-edged sword. Yeah, you can model it where you have something reaching out 4 inches from the base, but the thing is, now people are going to be that much closer to you when they need to, and also turning this far is going to cost you 3 inches of movement.
So right here, right now, today, from the demo that we saw, which I like the game a lot, actually, I am not seeing the point of ignoring the bases. So does anybody disagree with me? Does anybody think from the demo today that there's a reason to play with just the bases?
I can think of 2 reasons why that would come into play.
Okay.
One is the monster is creatures. Just like the larger bases that they have already extending out past their model itself, I could see that becoming an issue just because you're going to get those... Facing is going to become apart with just the larger bases there. The other reason is because you also got the horde armies like Skaven and stuff like that want to get as much as they possibly can in. They can easily fit 2 or 3 more ranks in once you start stacking those bases up.
Well, what about spears that just start pounding through the
Exactly. Now, this is what I was going to say is that you can house rule it where you can't stack on top of your opponent's base, and that would seem absolutely fair. Does that
But
seem
you're
like
allowed
a
to pile onto your
You
own.
can absolutely pile on your own base.
It's
You
a
can't-
possible solution. That's for sure.
I actually
And-
I don't horribly like
I don't
opposed to
know.
that. Like that's.
I don't think I'm going to allow any base overlap. I'm not making a call right here and now.
No, but the thing is, as I'm sure everyone in the room has this, seeing that on the table hurt.
Yeah.
Just
I don't want-
watching that
I'm
as
not
soon
gonna
as
base
it was
them.
like when I was filming it and looking at it, I was like, that looks so. And I wanted to go in and be like, this needs to be flat. I didn't have to.
Like I almost would have preferred it if it was on like a nothing or like a clear piece of plastic, so they
you
could
know
all
what
just
we-
slide onto
You
each
know what
other.
we need to
like,
do? We need to make a metallic sheet and magnetize the feet of all our fantasy models.
like almost like that's what I was thinking. Like something where it could be like on like just the feet, and it
Now,
just sticks right there.
If
Because
we
it
went
was
with
just weird.
the whole use the base and just the base, it will remove the cheesiness of spears, of just modeling them so you can stick your spear through the armpit of another guy and get an extra attack. I'm okay with that. How would you feel about that? If you have a lot of you can have a lot of spears in your army.
Yeah.
You can get a lot of spears on your skeletons. How do you feel about that?
I think what it comes down to for me, and this might not be the popular opinion because you guys play a little bit more competitive. I'm a casual gamer through and through. I play.
Have you seen? I bring George in all my chaos lists. I am not competitive.
Yeah. I play for fun. I don't play to win, and it's. I don't like when I make mistakes.
But really
no,
quick,
there's a social contract for me when you come up in a game.
Yep.
If it comes down to it, if somebody really, really feels the need to do that, okay, cool, go ahead. We'll work it out. I don't mind being the more flexible.
Sure.
Probably not going to play against that person a whole lot.
But we have to have some sort of standard here at MiniWarGaming.
Well, for you guys, definitely. So I'm almost speaking to, not for how you guys are going to run your bat reps. I'm almost speaking for
Friendly
when I'm
local game
playing.
stores.
Yeah.
If
When
you
I'm
and I
playing
are
with
gonna
my
play,
buddy.
if you and I are going to play,
Yeah.
we're not going to have the problem of overlapping bases. You're going to know, what, Josh, I don't want my bases
Well,
to
the
get
difference
scratched.
is going to be if we're playing on camera against each other, and there's going to be more consistency because that's what people are looking for, or if we're playing off camera, just because we're
No holds barred.
we both have the same.
Your bases are screwed.
I know. I'm not going to base my models.
Destroy all your models.
Which-
well, no, it's the understanding that we're just playing for fun, and there's going to be some more flexibility.
And that's another reason why people might want to stay with the square bases, because the square bases are a tighter fit to the model.
And I think it's good because of not only that, but the main bases are 1 inch. So with your weapons that you have 1 inch range, so you put your 2 square bases together, you're now getting 2 models in fighting like 2 ranks, just like old fantasy. You get that spear with the 2 inch, you can now do 3 models long, which is fighting in 3 ranks.
Absolutely.
And the models that we saw today, I didn't think any of them, except for 1 unit, needed to be on a base that big. And that was the ones with the giant wings. And the only reason they needed a model that big was so that they could stand up.
Yep.
So now here's an interesting thought.
Yep.
Going back and modeling your all your stuff onto the 24 millimeter bases, just to get them closer together, and so you can shove them up to get better range on combat and all that sort of stuff. Because a lot of the standardized bases, or I don't want to say standardized bases, but there's a lot of bases, especially round ones, that are larger than that 24 millimeters, going into 1 inch or even over 1 inch. So that is another example of modeling for advantage in that regard.
And one of
Biggest thing
the
we'll put.
so one of the things I'm thinking about just in my mind right now is like the Skaven Screaming Bell model. It has to be pushed by other Skaven, so they have to be within 1 inch of it.
Is that still in the rules in the War Scroll?
That's still in it.
Wow.
And so that's still part of it, the having the Skaven push it along. So if you're basing it so it's on this big base and you can't get your models within 1 inch of it, they have to actually be standing on the base beside it. Like,
I don't like that.
you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of weird.
In that case, do we just say, scratch this one rule where it says ignore the base? Do we count the base as part of the model?
Here and now, until we know more, and I think the problem is I'm worried that we already know everything we have to know. So if this is it, this is everything, yes, we're going to play with the base, not the model. We're going to ignore wings. Now,
To a certain extent, because there's certain ways that you can't
'Cause
maintain coherency.
it's too hard to just not want to make your spears really long and be able to fight in 4 ranks. Because it's very doable. But let's move on from this base thing because
We could
We
that
can-
that we can
The base
argue about
debate
forever.
will continue.
the actual models, the
Gorgeous.
Sigmar.
Oh.
Okay, wait, the models are amazing. They actually
So
are.
pretty.
They're a lot, not a lot bigger. They're
They're-
bigger than
a little bit bigger.
They're a lot bigger.
They're a lot bigger.
Just from, I'm not sure if you guys saw it, but the White Dwarf that came out had the sprue for the model. The plastic actually looks a lot thicker than anything that Games Workshop has produced before.
Well, I mean, if you start mashing your models together, you can get. Never mind.
So now here's the question: are they so much bigger because this is just sort of like an introductory kit? Like, are we going to be seeing varying sizes?
I think it was because
or is this going to be a new standard?
all the models from the Sigmarite army were all multiple wound models.
Yep.
So they're meant to be bigger.
So does this mean in the next TAC Marine update we're going to be getting true scale TAC Marines?
We can do it now, actually.
We can do it.
We can use the
now.
A
legs.
lot easier.
But no, I think that's interesting. Like
No.
multi-wound models.
Another thing I want to bring up, I want Josh and Quirk to answer this one. The game, to me, after playing the demo, felt a lot like Games Workshop Reroll War Machine.
I can see it.
Okay,
So Josh is a big War Machine player,
this
as
is all
is
you.
Quirk, obviously.
I'm not
I
touching
think
this
I'm a
one.
medium average size woman. No, okay. Watching the demo game and having played a lot of War Machine in the past couple of years, and that's been my game. The Age of Sigmar played more like how I wish War Machine played. And I'm struggling saying this. But again, I know I was talking earlier, I'm a more casual player. It flowed a lot better. It flowed really nice and quick, and
Models died on both sides of the table.
things were happening a lot faster, and there was less stopping to really kind of crunch numbers and figure things out.
And I think with the
Yeah.
dropping of those grids, that makes that,
That
so
made
much
everything
smoother.
quicker.
So much smoother.
I was using the analogy earlier, and I was comparing the two games almost, and I said it feels like Age of Sigmar is checkers if War Machine is chess.
It's
Well, that's
They're
not necessarily
still
a good thing.
well, no,
it is
that's
the
not a
diet
bad
version
thing.
of War Machine.
Just 1 calorie, not enough.
It's different. The strategy's different.
Yep.
You're
It's-
playing both of them on a board with squares, right? But there's less weird interactions I find with Age of Sigmar stuff from what I've seen so far. War Machine, there's a lot more interactions specifically between different units. Age of Sigmar, it was more, this unit does this thing to itself.
And the thing was, reading through the scrolls and everything like that, reading through the rules, everything seems, oddly enough, very clear. The only thing that I'm still up in the air about is actual army building.
I'm actually very confused about how clear it is.
But the thing, that's exactly it.
You know what I mean? Like, wait,
It's simple to
I'm looking for the thing where I'm missing that changes everything else.
Look, I'm honestly waiting for the second appearance of these rules with a bigger book and more explanations.
You might not.
I don't think this is it. I can't believe that this is it.
I'm actually right there with you. It feels like there's more coming.
I'm waiting. In 2 weeks, are we going to hear that? Oh, the book with
if you took
all
the
the
rules for War
scenarios
Machine and written them down, I think you can cover it in 4 pages like this.
Yeah, but you don't have no. And then that's the thing. But
and everything else is on the War Scroll, the card.
Yeah,
Everything's on the War Scroll.
Yeah, I guess so.
So
But,
here's the thing: is that in War Machine, as an example, you have the intro phase, which is your maintenance control, and then you have your activation, which is almost like a beginning before your turn.
Yep.
That's not in this.
You're right.
This has your hero phase, which has been pretty much dubbed the psychic phase, where you have all your psychic powers take place, all your hero powers take place, everything.
Magic, it's fancy.
Yeah.
Magic, sorry. Everything that can...
She's a witch, she is.
You just threw me right off. Sorry. But everything that is not a movement, anything that is not a shooting, and anything that is not an assault is covered in this phase. Unless it's described later on the actual War Scroll itself, this is when that takes place. So you have your heroes giving out that inspiration. You have your wizards or whatever trying to...
You have your spells, you have your
spells,
command,
priests are the other ones.
Exactly, you have your priests, thank you, that's the one I was trying to think of. You have all of this, doing all of its stuff right then, so all your spells get cast, everything like that. Then you have your movement, then you have your shooting, then you have your assault, then you have your battle shock, and then it's rinse and repeat. It's very clear, it's very cut, it's not, well, does this happen before this or after this? It's very, this is when this happens, move on to the next thing, move on to the next thing, move on to the next thing.
If your War Scrolls are in front of you, like when you're playing War Machine, if your cards are in front of you, everything's right there. There's nothing... We didn't have to go reference the rule book.
Steve.
No.
Yeah, read your War Scroll.
I was the one who was doing the floating camera filming everything. Yep. And there was points where I was watching Steve to see when he would be looking down at his cards and we'd be looking up because I wanted to get good shots of him just kind of doing a conversation. The thing was, this was him playing the game. Just referencing those war calls really quickly. It wasn't, oh, what does this do? Let me pull up the book really quick and flip to that page. Okay, I need a bookmark for this page. I'm going to be coming back to it later. Right. It was... That's what it does. Okay.
Well, another thing, I'll say real quick. What I think is great about the War Scrolls is when we're playing Warhammer Fantasy, or even 40k, it's like, okay, what's your toughness? Because I don't know what your models are. What do I need to wound you on? Doesn't matter. I know what I wound you on. It's right there in my card.
Exactly.
So I can go do my turn. I can go do my turn. No stopping that.
Very little back and forth. The only time you have a back and forth there is when you go, this is my hit, this is my wound, it's -2 to your rend, what is your save? That is the only question that ever came up was, what is your save?
Which is good, because it's you always feel bad if you say, yeah, no, it's strength 2 or toughness 2, and then you're like, oh, it's 3 or because you feel like the bad guy.
You would roll everything and be like, oh, it's okay. I wound on 4s, and you grab all your 4s and you start shuffling everything else over. You throw the dice away, and then you go, wait, are you 5 or 6 toughness? Oh, this should have been on 3s. And you
we have a luxury here of being like, oh, let's go check back in the camera to see what you rolled. But
so having said that,
other people don't.
The homogenization of units and whatnot, like
perfect time to ask that question.
I think it is perfect time to ask that
question. The thing is, you start to worry with what we're telling you. Is the game too simplified? Is it no strategy, no fun? No. After playing one round of the demo, you can immediately pick up where the strategy is.
100%. It's in different spots.
It is a very different.
Because one of the big things I noticed is once you guys probably turned 2 or 3, there was no movement phase.
Yeah.
There was no movement phase.
It was really small.
The first
turn, and that's the thing, right?
It was a lot of you getting the introduction to it, but it was once the first turn had been done, and then you had your turn. It was doing all your movement, which you didn't have much of. No spoilers, but you didn't have too much movement. But you still had that. You still had the shooting. You still had the combat, and then next turn. And it wasn't 5 minutes, it was back to Steve. And then it was about 3 minutes, it was back to Jay. And then a minute, a minute, and then it was just
I'll
tying
tell
up
you right
hands.
now, because it's only a demo game. We played in a 2x2 board to get the action right away, and I got charged right away.
Yeah.
Right away. So much
Was it
of
first turn?
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
100%. Okay.
he rolled
Almost
some
like-
amazing
hold on a
charges.
second. How can that be? Because you have to deploy 12 inches away from
No,
the
no,
enemy.
we
No,
played-
no, no.
played at
It played on a
Twitch's demo,
2x2, so
just,
it was everything got.
So you didn't really get a chance to play the proper.
No, we
fold.
just to see how everything kind of works.
So it was a smaller game on a smaller board,
All
but
right.
the
Well,
deployment was
it's
stopped.
good. It's
12
good
inches
to
back.
mention that because there is the rule in the book where you have to be 12 inches from the
Yeah,
enemy.
that's
Yeah,
all
of course.
about maneuvering and picking who wants to be combat with what. But that's a whole part of the game. But once we got into combat, we each had after turn one, well, 3 units each in combat. So when we went into the combat phase, he picks one of his things that are in combat to fight. After he finishes attacking with it, I pick one of my 3.
Yeah.
Well, do I pick the one that was in combat with him, or do I pick something else that he charged with but hasn't attacked?
And
yet?
choosing which one, I think there's a lot of strategy
And then
there
after I
because
did
you
those
go.
wounds, he has to decide where he wants to take the wounds from. Because what is he going to attack next turn? Is he going to attack this squad? It was actually
Because it seems like a lot of like mental math of how do I get the least amount of tax on me?
But the thing is, it's not that like mentally straining about it.
No.
It's what is my goal? Okay, will pulling the wounds off this model and losing this model prevent me from that, or make it easier for me to do that?
while
Great.
staying in your 1-inch coherence.
While staying within everything. So you have that, and then on top of it, it was, well, I just got charged by this model. It just hit me. It has nothing else that's going to hit this unit. I'm going to attack with this unit last because they're not in danger.
Yep,
Let's move
and then
over
that's
to
the thing I found.
Let's move over to the unit that's about to get wrecked.
So
Yeah.
now, out of curiosity, then, because you guys keep bringing up the coherency, and obviously in all Warhammer games, coherency is a big deal. Is there a downside to being knocked out of coherency in combat?
In combat, no. But the thing is
Okay,
that
so
in your
that's
movement,
kinda standard.
For that, no. But in your movement phase, you have to try and get back in coherence.
But that's standard for all Warhammer games.
Here's the thing:
But-
though. If you're in combat, you can do one of two things. You can either like retreat,
Hold your ground.
or hold your ground. If you're not in coherency, you have to retreat because that's the only way you're going to be able to do a movement to
Well,
get back.
there's
into
actually
coherency.
more to that, but we'll tie
Yeah,
it up.
that's
That's
our
all we got.
initial 30 minutes right there.
We'll get into more of some of the tactics and details.
So, all right.
Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. Vault members, go ahead and click that link below to get access to the second half of this conversation, where we're going to be finishing off our discussion of the
The actual tactics parts, I guess.
Yeah, and we're going to be covering
Actually,
tactics,
please.
everything like that. As always, guys, if you have any comments that you'd like to let us know about, if you have any topics that you'd like us to talk about, please leave it in the comments below.
Questions for us, we'll answer them.
Absolutely. And also, if you're not a Vault member, go ahead and click that link anyway. It gives you access to a free 7-day trial where you get to hear the rest of our conversation. Also gives you access to a bunch of different videos that we have here, like Chris's painting tutorials, behind the scenes, as well as some extra battle reports that you don't get access to without that Vault membership. But until then, guys, happy wargaming.